RPG combat is usually all about menus, turns, and numbers flying across the screen. But not these games. These are the ones that broke the rules, flipped the formula, and made every fight feel fresh, risky, or straight-up chaotic. Some turned battles into puzzles, others into fighting games, and a few into pure cinematic madness. Today we're diving into 10 RPGs with combat so unique, you'll wonder why more games don't steal their ideas.
Towering, fierce, terrible, nightmare made.
You think health bars are your biggest problem in an RPG? Well, Darkest Dungeon laughs in your face. Here, the real killer isn't always the monster's claws. It's the crushing weight of stress gnawing at your heroes until they break. On the surface, battles look like a side-scrolling tactics game, with 4 heroes facing 4 enemies in strict formation, but the catch is positioning. Every skill has rules like where you stand and what row you target, but get shuffled and suddenly your healer's stuck in the front row waving a dagger instead of healing. And enemies know this and exploit it, dragging heroes out of place, stunning the wrong ones, and leaving corpses behind to clog the line. And even killing something can screw you over if it blocks access to the real threat hiding in the back. Then comes the stress bar, the true genius of the system. Each critical, each hit, each eldritch horror staring a little too long pushes that meter higher. And when it hit 100, your hero either snaps into paranoia, selfishness, or outright despair, sabotaging the party with random moves and insults. Rarely, very rarely, they rise above it, gaining a virtue that rallies everyone. Push them to 200 and you trigger a heart attack, which is exactly as fun as it sounds. And suddenly, damage is just one way the game is killing you. Your sanity is the other. And death doesn't even come clean. Drop to 0 HP and you're not gone yet. You're on death's door, limping along until one more blow finishes the job, unless the dice say you live to crawl another turn. It's a constant coin flip with fate, and every heal pulled off in that state feels like dodging the Grim Reaper by inches. Layer on top the torch mechanic, where bright light means safety, and dim light means more loot but higher risk, and you've got a system that rewards greed while punishing it brutally. Add in marks, bleeds, blights, and stress-spreading synergies, and every fight feels like a razor's edge.
You dare enter Orlange? In this world!
Sea of Stars doesn't just look like a retro RPG, it reinvents how turn-based combat feels. Instead of mindlessly spamming attack, every move pulls you in with timing, strategy, and a touch of puzzle solving. At the core, you've got timed hits and timed blocks. Press at the right moment, and your sword cuts deeper, your fireball burns brighter, or that enemy slam barely scratches you, but miss it, and you'll feel it. Pair that with enemies flashing countdowns before their turn, and you're constantly planning not just what to do, but when. Then come the locks. Picture a boss winding up for a massive spell, and suddenly icons pop up. Slash, blunt, sun, poison. Break a few and the attack weakens. Break them all and the spell fizzles out. It turns battles into these mini tactical puzzles where swapping party members and mixing skills actually matters. And yes, you can switch characters mid-battle for free, which makes the system even snappier. The game also nails mana economy. Instead of hoarding MP like it's gold, your basic attacks restore it, and even generate energy to boost the next skill. It pushes you to spend, strike, recharge, and repeat. No more saving your best moves for bosses, you're throwing them around constantly. Add in dual tech combos that now carry over between battles, and ultimates that reset after each fight, and every fight feels like a chance to unload. Is it perfect? Not quite. Some bosses drag longer than they should, and a few lock patterns are almost impossible to crack in time. And yeah, the timing windows on certain moves can be inconsistent, which makes you second guess if you messed up or the game just trolled you. But even then, it keeps you more engaged than most RPGs dare. With updates adding 3-player co-op, new relics that tweak difficulty, and an epilogue expansion that throws fresh enemies and classes into the mix, Sea of Stars proves it's not just paying tribute to classics, it's building on them. Ever played an RPG where time literally bends to your will? That's the magic of Transistor. At first glance, it looks like a stylish action game, but the second you hit the turn button, everything changes. The world freezes. You plot your every move like a chess master, and then watch it all unfold in a single, devastating blur. The catch? After pulling off that perfect combo, you're stuck waiting for the meter to recharge, and unless you've got Jaunt equipped, forget fancy dashes. Without it, you're basically a sitting duck praying your positioning skills are better than your build choices. Instead of just collecting skills, you get functions, and every single one can serve as an active power, an upgrade, or a passive trait. There are 16 functions, each with 3 possible roles, plus a memory limit that forces you to make hard choices. So, do the math and you've got thousands of potential builds. Want to plant bombs that suck enemies together before detonating in a massive explosion? You can. Prefer stacking debuffs and landing a single brutal backstab for insane damage? Okay. Some players even lean on support builds, using summons or stealth while whittling enemies down. The freedom is ridiculous, and the game encourages experimentation by locking and unlocking skills as you die, pushing you to constantly rethink your setup. Combat feels like a rhythm. Plan, strike, survive, repeat. Maybe you unload a sequence of breach shots to snipe a whole line of enemies, or crash in close to stun and set up a cull finisher. But miss your timing or overcommit, and suddenly you're scrambling for cells dropped by enemies before they respawn. And when things get too comfortable, you flip on limiters, which are optional difficulty tweaks that buff enemies, but reward you with more XP. On top of all that, Transistor oozes style. The cyber-noir cityscapes, Darren Korb's haunting soundtrack, Red humming softly when you hold a button, it's atmosphere you don't forget. Some will complain it's short, others might bounce off the cryptic storytelling, but when it comes to combat systems, Transistor is one of the smartest, most flexible designs RPGs have ever seen.
Good to go.
Welcome, adventure seekers, to the Bravely Default.
Only Bravely Default 2 lets you treat turns like currency you can borrow and overspend. Its combat lives and dies on the Brave and Default system. Defend to stockpile battle points, or burn them all at once to unleash a flurry of actions. Go negative, and your character just stands there like a fool, waiting for enemies to pound them. It's risk, reward, and regret, all packed into a single button press. But that's only the start. Instead of classic turn order, this game uses a speed-driven system where every action and piece of gear messes with initiative. Throw heavy armor on your mage? Congrats, you just turned him into the slowest guy on the field. It forces you to think not only about what you're doing, but also when you'll even get the chance. The real playground, though, is in its jobs. There are 24 of them, each represented by an asterisk you steal from some boss, and mixing them together is half the fun. Every character gets a main job, a sub-job, and up to 5 passive skills, which basically means the game hands you a chemistry set and dares you to blow it up. Want a thief that nukes with magic? Or a tank that dodges everything while countering back? It's all possible if you're creative enough, or just shameless about breaking the system. Of course, bosses won't let you coast. Many of them come with nasty counter mechanics. Heal too much, use too many items, or spam certain attacks, and they'll punish you hard. Some reviews loved the challenge, others hated the lack of clear tells, but one thing's for sure, you can't just autopilot. But it's not flawless. Grinding is a bit slower than in the 3DS days, and some difficulty spikes feel like the game just smacked you with a brick. But when the systems click, it's a masterclass in tactical freedom.
See what I can really do. Yeah. Let me out.
Leave it to me! Full steam ahead!
What other RPG lets you literally grab a griffin mid-air, set its wings on fire, and watch it crash to the ground while your party tears it apart? That's Dragon's Dogma. Capcom didn't just make another fantasy RPG. They built one of the most physical, reactive combat systems in the genre, and it still feels unmatched today. The magic is how everything connects. You don't just swing a sword, You climb giants, hack off tails, and break enemy parts to change how they fight. Your mage can enchant your blade with fire, and suddenly your arrows turn into flaming missiles that knock monsters out of the sky. Every encounter feels like it's built for improvisation, and when it all clicks, it's chaos in the best way. But combat isn't just about you, it's about the pawns. These AI companions aren't throwaway NPCs. They learn, they bring knowledge from other players' worlds, and sometimes they'll straight up save your life because someone out there trained them well. It's like having co-op partners without the scheduling headaches, and it gives the game a personality no other RPG has managed to copy. Then you've got the vocations, which are classes that completely change the game's rhythm. Play as a warrior, and you're a slow, devastating wrecking ball. But switch to Magic Archer and suddenly you're ricocheting arrows around corridors like some fantasy John Wick. So, changing vocations doesn't just tweak numbers. It transforms how the game feels. Dark Arisen also adds the infamous Bitter Black Isle, a brutal endgame dungeon where Capcom throws everything at you. Cramped arenas, multi-boss fights, even the Grim Reaper himself stalking the halls. It's tense, unfair at times, but perfect for testing every build you've crafted. And yes, the Eternal Fairy Stone means less painful backtracking, which is Capcom admitting they maybe overdid the immersion part in the original. Now, it's not flawless. The story? Serviceable at best. Side quests? More like busy work between the monster hunts. And pawns? Let's just say you'll want to mute them before they narrate every blade of grass they've ever seen. But here's the thing. The combat is so good that none of it really matters.
Here and now, such is the contest you have chosen. Aye, raise your weapon, your teeth of steel, your blood red.
Hey guys, do me a solid and smash the hype button. Then drop a comment with your favorite pick for the next part of this series. I check and reply to all of them. They both feed the almighty algorithm and push this channel forward, and honestly, it's hands down the best way you can help the channel grow. And of course, if you're enjoying the video, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button so you won't miss the next one.
Is this your...
What happens when a Final Fantasy decides it's done with random encounters and menu mashing, and instead lets you program your party like you're writing battle code? That's Final Fantasy XII, of course. On the surface, it looks like a traditional JRPG, but the real game is under the hood. The Gambit system. You set conditions like heal ally under 70% HP or attack flying enemies with magic, stack them in priority, and then watch your team execute your plan in real time. The battles happen right where you stand, no fade-outs and no cutaways. You see the enemies, draw your lines of attack, and your squad reacts instantly. Some players said it looked like the game was playing itself, but that's only true if you're talking about weak mobs. Against hunts and super bosses, those scripts you wrote get stress-tested hard. And suddenly you're pausing, tweaking priorities, and micromanaging like a chess player under the clock. And then there are the quickenings, flashy chainable limit breaks that let you mash inputs to extend the combo. They hit like a slot machine of destruction. Sometimes you get a short burst, sometimes a devastating chain that melts bosses. Originally, the PS2 version had a single license board that made everyone blur together. However, the remaster, the Zodiac Age, fixed that with 12 distinct jobs and the option to pair 2 per character. Suddenly, you weren't just building gambits. You were designing actual team comps. White mage tank, samurai healer, knight with time magic, weird combos that actually work. Add the quality of life stuff like a speed toggle, a cleaner map, and job reset options in newer versions. And the pacing hits way better today than it did in 2006. The highlight? The optional content. Hunts turn the system into a playground for creativity, and trial modes floors are basically a marathon for your builds. And then there's Yasmat, the infamous raid boss with over 50 million HP. And beating him isn't just about grinding stats. It's about setting up the right loops of healing, buffs, and damage priorities until your battle plan outlasts his health bar. It's absurd, but it proves how much depth the system actually has. What if I told you there's an RPG where the combat feels more like a tag team fighting game than a menu-driven grind? Yeah, Valkyrie Profile pulled that off decades ago. It throws you into a Norse myth epic about recruiting warriors for Ragnarok. But the moment you step into battle, it's something else entirely. Each party member is mapped to a face button. No scrolling through endless commands, you literally press the character. Time your taps, mix the sequence, and suddenly you're chaining a 4-man combo that looks like it belongs in an arcade brawler. And every clean hit builds the special gauge, letting you unleash a Purify Weird Soul, which is basically a flashy super move. The kicker? Those supers can chain into each other, so one character's finisher sets up the next, until the whole squad nukes the enemy in a single round. It's turn-based, yeah, but with the tempo and satisfaction of juggling an opponent in midair. And juggling isn't just for style. Knock an enemy around and they'll drop crystals that cut down cooldown timers or boost your rewards. It's a feedback loop that rewards aggression, creativity, and, let's be honest, a little button-mashing chaos. But you can't just spam supers forever. Mages rack up charge time after big spells. And characters who blow their ultimate sit out for a few turns. So you're constantly balancing, do I cash out the gauge now, or save it for the boss that's 2 rooms away? Weapons add another wrinkle. Some give more hits per turn, but equip the right staff, and you can unleash devastating great magic, though many of those staffs might shatter when you do. And speaking of dungeons, this isn't your usual overhead RPG crawl. There are 2D side-scrolling mazes with platforming, traps, and puzzles solved by firing crystals that freeze or create platforms. It's clunky, sure, but it gives the game its own rhythm. Between that, the War God evaluations that force you to actually send away your strongest recruits, and multiple endings hidden behind obscure conditions, and Valkyrie Profile never lets you just coast. However, the learning curve is brutal. Tutorials are basically good luck, and the platforming can feel stiff. But the combat? It's one of the most stylish, experimental battle systems ever put in an RPG.
Nivalang Balesti! I see this foe will not fall.
Mugen no Kensen. Blade Art. Senko Jin. You still fight?
What if I told you there's an RPG where pulling the trigger isn't the end of the move, but just the setup? That's Resonance of Fate. Try Ace's wild experiment that turns turn-based battles into full-blown action movie choreography. Forget swinging swords or mashing fire spells. Here, you're juggling acrobatics, bullet trails, and a system that punishes you the second you get sloppy. At the core are 2 kinds of damage: scratch and direct. Scratch is temporary, stacking up fast with machine guns, while direct is permanent, sealing the deal with pistols or grenades. So the trick is chaining both build into Mountain of Scratch, then cash it in with a single shot. But if you screw it up, you'll watch all that setup vanish into nothing. But the real tension comes from hero actions. You draw a line, your character dashes across it, flipping, diving, and unloading bullets in slow motion, totally invincible. It looks stylish, but every move burns a bezel, and those aren't just points, they're your lifeline. Run out, and the fight flips on you. No more tricks, no more safety, just panic as enemies chew through you. And the only way to get bezels back is to break enemy parts or finish a target. And then there's the payoff. Try attacks. Line up your 3 characters' paths just right, build resonance, and unleash a rotating storm of gunfire that looks like something ripped straight from a John Woo movie. Add mechanics like launching enemies into the air, smashing them into the ground for bonus drops, or linking explosives with elemental ammo, and suddenly every fight is its own puzzle box. Outside combat, the game gets just as strange. The world map is literally a hex board. You unlock zones by slotting energy hexes like pieces of Tetris, and terminals let you buff entire regions with modifiers. Weapons aren't just upgraded, they're engineered. Scopes, barrels, grips all snapped onto a grid, creating these absurd, overbuilt monstrosities that thankfully don't carry over to the cutscenes. And yes, you can dress your party in an endless wardrobe of outfits, because apparently surviving gunfights looks better in matching coats. It's not perfect, of course. The story takes its sweet time, the environments lean a bit too gray, and the tutorial leaves you drowning in trial and error. But if you stick with it, you get one of the most stylish, brainy, and brutally unforgiving combat systems RPGs have ever seen. Picture a battlefield packed with 7 fighters all under your command, each one tied to a role that can make or break the fight. And that's the Playground Xenoblade Chronicles 3 drops you into. And the secret sauce isn't just the flashy moves, it's how you rebuild and reshape your team after every fight. The backbone of the combat is the arts. Every class has its own set, but you can also pull master arts from others and even fuse 2 into one big strike. It's like having a deck of moves that never stops evolving. Then there's positioning, where landing a break or topple from the right angle isn't just about damage, it's the first domino in a chain that can snowball into total destruction. But the real spectacle kicks in with Interlink. 2 characters merge into an Ouroboros, turning into a giant fusion mech that feels ripped out of a shonen anime. It's powerful, flashy, and risky, because stay in too long and you'll overheat, leaving you wide open. But hit level 3 before transforming though, and the payoff is ridiculous. And that moment when you nail the timing and the screen explodes in effects, it's pure adrenaline. And then there are the chain attacks, the cherry on top. The entire battle freezes, flips into a turn-based mode, and suddenly you're calling shots like a strategist. Each order comes with unique buffs, and you're chasing that sweet spot of hitting over 99 TP to reactivate allies. Stack enough rounds, and your final burst can delete bosses in one cinematic punch. It's over the top, sure, but also one of the most satisfying payoffs in the series. And as you can see, the game does throw a lot at you. Early hours can feel like a lecture in combat theory, and the chain attacks drag a bit if you use them too often. But once it clicks, it's incredibly satisfying. Reviews often call this the most refined combat in the franchise, and it's hard to argue. It blends the positioning and status play of the first game with the layered systems of the second, then cranks the dial with class freedom and flashy finishers. Using a potion shouldn't feel like a boss fight, unless you're in Shadow Hearts. On the surface, it looks like a traditional PS2 turn-based RPG. But the moment you hit your first action, the game pulls out its secret weapon, the Judgment Ring. Every single move, from swinging a sword to casting magic, and even shopping, runs through this spinning wheel of timing. Hit the zones right and you deal bonus damage, but miss and your action flops completely. But that's only the first layer of pressure. Shadow Hearts throws in sanity points, a stat that ticks down every turn. Run out, and your character goes berserk, attacking friend or foe with no warning. It forces you to think not just about HP and MP, but how long you can keep a fighter on the field before their mind snaps. And then there's Yuri, the main character, who takes things further. He can fuse with demons he's collected, unlocking new forms with unique abilities, but every fusion drains more of that precious sanity. Do you risk a powerhouse transformation and hope you finish the fight fast, or play it safe and keep your team stable? Combat doesn't end when the battle's over either. The Malice system builds up as you defeat enemies, and if you let it max out, grotesque hunters stalk you down. The only way to reset it? Dive into the graveyard, face horrors head-on, and purge your sins. It's a mechanic that ties the game's horror atmosphere directly into how you play moment to moment. And that's the magic of Shadow Hearts. It takes a genre known for safe, predictable turns and injects constant tension. Critics at the time praised the Judgment Ring for making every input matter. And while the story's a strange mix of dark horror and sarcastic humor, the combat is what carved this game into cult status. Sure, the graphics looked dated even back then, and the English voice acting was, let's say, inconsistent. But when an RPG makes you sweat over pressing a button at the right millisecond, that's something unforgettable. Guys, if you missed the earlier parts of the series, the playlist's in the description and right there on your screen. And before you go, don't forget to smash the hype button, leave a comment, and hit sub so you don't miss what's next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the comments section.